Can we all agree on one thing? Charles Barkley is one of the best players in NBA history. Unfortunately for him, though, he's in that special category of all-time greats who just never managed to add a ring to their resume. I mean, one of the reoccurring jokes on Inside the NBA is that Shaq always makes sure Chuck never forgets that he has no championship.
Shaq, like when you played in Phoenix, we used to say, Shaq's a bum. That was after I had 4 rings.
Saying that they hang their hat on defense.
First of all, I got 4 championships. I know what the hell it means. I got 3 finals MVP, Chuck.
Because you
Google me, Chuck.
Everybody
Google
knows you
me,
were a
Chuck.
great
You see
player.
that?
Everybody
Google
knows
me.
you were a great player.
You don't know what you're talking about when it comes to championships. I got 3 finals MVP, Chuck. I mean,
you were a great player.
And it's not like the guy didn't try either. He got about as close as you can get. It's just that, like with most players who hit their prime in the 90s, he had to go through one particular monster. A monster who, no matter how hard you played against him, was gonna end up with the championship at the end. Michael Jordan has by himself probably influenced the legacies of hundreds of players in the NBA. The Bulls finished the 93 season second in the East with 57 wins. And before sweeping the Hawks and the Cavs in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, they once again looked unstoppable. And after that, 6 games were enough for them to beat the top-seeded Patrick Ewing Knicks. They were once again in the finals. But in front of them was probably their best opponent at the time. This was the 25th season of the Phoenix Suns' existence, and for that reason, the management had decided they wanted to go all in as they brought in Charles Barkley to pair with their all-star point guard Kevin Johnson. They were ready to make a run, and it was pretty successful. They finished the season leading the entire league with 62 wins, and Charles Barkley took the MVP trophy home. It was pretty much perfect, and their playoff run was as beautiful as the regular season. Neither the Lakers, the Spurs, nor the Supersonics were enough to stop Barkley and his teammates. They were coming in with confidence, and with home court advantage on their side, this was their chance to bring Phoenix its first NBA title. Well, fast forward a few games and things couldn't be worse for the Suns. What was supposed to be a series where they had the advantage quickly turned into Michael Jordan showing why he was the undisputed best. The Bulls were leading 3-2 with MJ averaging a whopping 43 points a game over this span. And it's not like the Suns were struggling either. They were playing their best basketball of the season, with Chuck averaging 29 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 assists over this stretch. With an iconic 32-point triple-double in Game 5, he was putting everything that he had on the court. He was willing to leave it all on the court for the sake of winning. But not only that, it felt like it was finally his moment to get a title.
I believe there's such thing as destiny. And I told Michael that the other night at dinner. I just believe in my heart. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I believe it 100%. That it's just our destiny.
And with the series now back to Phoenix for the last 2 games, the Suns were determined to make something happen. But MJ, well, he saw things differently, and he knew that victory was going to be his. I mean, one of MJ's most iconic stories is that he boarded the plane on the way to Phoenix with a cigar and a beer in his hand. That's it. He was so confident that Game 6 was going to be the end of the series that he didn't even bring a change of clothes with him. The message from the leader was,
he said, anyone that doesn't think we're going to win the championship, get off the damn plane.
And he said, let's go, boys. I didn't even pack for 2 games. Let's go out there and win this game and fly back tomorrow night.
But before we dive into the game itself, meet today's video sponsor, OddsJam, your ultimate ally in the world of data-driven wagering. With over 260 sportsbooks under its belt, OddsJam is the go-to platform for savvy bettors. Here's how it works. OddsJam's arbitrage tool scans the market in real time, spotting differences in betting lines across various sportsbooks. This means you can lock in risk-free profits by betting on both sides of the market. But that's not all. OddsJam also provides a positive EV calculator to optimize your bets and a handy bet tracker to monitor your profits. By using OddsJam, you're not just betting smarter, you're betting responsibly for long-term profitability. And here's the kicker, they offer a 7-day free trial. Ready to give it a shot? Use code UNLIMITED for a 35% discount on your first month. Secure your bets with confidence, make informed decisions with OddsJam. All right, back to the video. Now, as the game started, the Bulls put their money where their mouth was. The objective here was clear, not letting the Suns even hope to get near Game 7. And so they came in hard from the get-go. When Jordan made his defender touch the ground and then knocked down the jump shot in his face, everyone knew that it was going to be bad for Phoenix. The tone of the game was set, and every other Bulls player knew that they had to step up in order to keep up with MJ. BJ Armstrong didn't waste any time as he sank this three-pointer early from the corner. Even Bill Cartwright was doing his part with his very special jumper. Now, Jordan wasn't going to let his teammates have all the fun, so he decided to knock down this three from the right wing, before adding in another one a few possessions later from the other wing. MJ's jumper was pretty much automatic, and the Robin to MJ's Batman was a part of the success too, as the Suns just could not stop Pippen either. Now, the Suns were battling it out on the other side of the court, making sure to not let the game slip away from their hands. Their three-headed monster of Charles Barkley, Dan Marley, and Kevin Johnson were doing their best as they took turns attacking Chicago's rim. And the Suns were doing their best to stop Chicago's offense too, as they played some very physical defense. But the Bulls players were determined to make their baskets count, with Scottie Pippen dropping this crazy dunk over Charles Barkley, and the Bulls players wanted to show that they wouldn't be beaten in a pure physicality contest. Even the bench players were doing their part, with Scott Williams attacking the rim with this beautiful hook shot here. Their offense was completely unstoppable at this point. And the barrage of three-pointers continued too, with Trent Tucker getting in on the action. At the end of the quarter, while the Suns had 28 points of their own, the Bulls had managed to score 37. Their offensive output was through the roof, and it was perfectly represented by Paxton's jump shot here going in right at the buzzer. As they got back into the game, the Bulls may have let this lead go into their heads, as their offense was shaky for a few possessions of the second quarter. Kevin Johnson was not going to go down without a fight, as he made it his goal to get the lead down before halftime. And so he started up the second quarter with his midi to set the tone, and then attacks the rim and makes a tough layup a few moments later. And with that, Marley started attacking the cup too and finished with a nice little floater. And as Chicago's shots started falling less and less, you could feel that the Suns players were starting to get a little hope again. Phil Jackson brought Michael Jordan back to the floor to stop the bleeding, but his first possession back, he would lose the ball in a ridiculous fashion, and then a couple of free throws from Oliver Miller would get the Bulls' lead all the way down to 3. Now, MJ's teammates were fighting to get back into their game, with Pippen sticking this beautiful jump shot, but the Suns kept responding every time, punctuated by Chambers with this crazy reverse dunk. The tide seemed to be turning now, and Charles's prediction was slowly becoming true. By halftime, that 9-point Chicago lead had fallen down to 5 points, and the Suns crowd was ready to give its all for its players. After a pitiful quarter like this, though, I'm sure that Phil Jackson's speech in the locker room was a very powerful one. But remember the Bulls' trump card. MJ only had 16 points at halftime, and with the way he had been dominating the entire series, everyone knew what was coming in the second half. It was now or never if the Suns wanted to finally put their mark on this game, and luckily for them, they had the perfect beginning that they could have hoped for in this half, as Horace Grant, one of the Bulls' main defenders, immediately got into foul trouble. Of course, Pippen's cool hand immediately gave the Bulls some breathing room as he sank this jump shot, giving them a 7-point cushion. And despite some back and forth on the next few possessions, the Bulls' efficiency was just on another level, as Armstrong would make another three-pointer, and he was now 4 of 5 from the three-point line. A constant back and forth would stem from this as each team tried to go on a run of its own, but the Suns lacked one significant factor though: Michael Jordan. One of the greatest things about him is that he was always one to lead by example. He made sure to set the tone once again by getting right to his spot and making this tough jumper over his defender. Now, the Suns defense did make sure to only give him tough looks, but it just wasn't enough to stop him. Even if you threw the entire team at him, he would make these crazy fadeaways over the defense. He single-handedly stopped every single run that the Suns tried to go on, even extending the Bulls' lead up to 8 points. And as the fourth quarter started, the Suns were faced with their destiny. They were down 8 points and had 12 minutes left to save their season. They were either going to step it up or they were going to lose out on the franchise's best season up to date. For the fans and the players, the decision was clear. They were going to do everything to get back. And so for the first 6 minutes of the quarter, the Suns' smothering defense would stop every single Bulls scoring attempt, as Chicago went scoreless for the first half of the quarter. The Suns and the whole arena were starting to believe again, and their offense was doing their job too. Charles Barkley was dominating the paint, and this deep three from Marley would finally give the Suns the lead. But as history would prove time and time again, on the other side of the court was arguably the best closer that the game had ever seen. And when he decides to take over, you could say goodbye to your dreams. And so with bucket after bucket, he would start bringing the Bulls back into the game. And with this layup, he would bring the score to 98-96, having scored every single one of the Bulls' 9 points in the quarter as of this moment. Still, the Suns had the ball now with a chance to put the game out of the Bulls' reach, but with the captain of the boat having set the tone, the Bulls soldiers knew what their mission was. And great defense would lead to Dan Marley hitting the side of the backboard, and from there, it was a Bulls game. Now, as you can guess, if there's one instruction that the Suns coach gave his players, it's do not let Michael Jordan beat you. But the problem is that's far easier said than done, and when you have an impossible task like this on your hands, you can end up over-focusing on it. And that's exactly what happened. Remember MJ's instructions before boarding the plane? If anyone wasn't there to win, they could stay home. Well, you can be sure that every single guy on that court at that moment was willing to die for MJ. And with that, Michael decides to let himself get used as a decoy to give his team a chance to win. He ran up the court, threw the ball to Pippen, who tried driving in the lane, from which point he would pass the ball to Horace Grant, who was just under the rim, and instead of going for the tough finish from his position, he was lucky enough to glance upon an open Paxton at the three-point line. From there, John would get the ball, and the rest is history.
You're not thinking, you're reacting. I caught the ball and shot it. It's a reaction. It's what I practiced. And your instincts are to catch and shoot, and that's what I did.
Now, the Suns still had 3.9 seconds to try and win to force a Game 7, but Grant wasn't having any of it. And this great block here would seal the Bulls' first three-peat, and the first one in the NBA since the 60s when the Celtics did it. After this win, people were starting to wonder if this Bulls team was going to win every single title in the 90s. After all, their superstar was in his prime, his teammates had bought in, and they had defeated their toughest opponent to date. They seemed invincible. So when Jordan announced his retirement a few weeks later, you can understand how big of an impact this had on the world. How could someone at the pinnacle of the sport just decide to leave it out of nowhere? On the other side of the spectrum, this loss was one that neither the Suns fans nor its players would recover from for a while. This collection of players and their franchise just had the best shot of their life towards a title, and they just couldn't get it done. If that year didn't work out for them, it never would. And you could feel the mental pressure that they were on after that. You would think that with Jordan's retirement, they would feel invigorated since the boogeyman was gone. But they couldn't even reach the finals as they lost in 6 games to the Hakeem-led Rockets. It would take them a couple of years before moving on from this team when they traded Chuck to that same Rockets team. And from that point on, it would take the franchise nearly 30 years to get back to the finals, only to lose to Milwaukee in 2021. Even on his own, Charles Barkley couldn't get that elusive title that he wanted so much. He had it within his reach, but as with most stars in the 90s, Jordan just snatched it away. All right, that's it for this one. Let us know what you thought down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share if you enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.